Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a fellow podcaster. Her name is Donna SweetPurpleJune, and she's the host of Night Thoughts, which is a podcast dedicated to the 80s new wave group, The Cars. And I'm having her on the show today to talk about all things Cars. Yeah, it's funny. It's very difficult for me to get musical people on the show because it's mostly, a film and television show. But I've been very lucky. I'm actually going to be having more music people on. In fact, I'm having some legendary rock musicians on the next week or so. And I'm pretty fucking excited about that. It's going to be awesome. Get to expand my horizons and branch out and talk to people about music and not just movies all the time. And so I'm going to be talking to this lady today about all things The Cars, and it's going to be awesome. If you don't know who The Cars are, they did classics such as well, you might think I'm delirious, or who's gonna drive me home tonight, or shake it up, hits like that. So, here is my interview with Donna SweetPurpleJune. Hey, Donna.
Hey, Tommy, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, I think. Is it Tuesday?
Yeah, it's Tuesday, and yesterday would have been Ben Orr's birthday.
Actually, Sunday. Sunday was Ben's birthday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
September 8th. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't rely on Facebook these days.
I know. Well, sometimes people think, they get confused because, European dates, they'll post it as 8-9, so instead of 9-8, and so then some people think it's August, and then, so they'll say, oh, happy birthday to Ben. Well, actually, it's not until September 8th, and then they still get confused with the 8-9, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time this morning, because I recently discovered your podcast, Night Thoughts, and I don't do a whole awful lot of music episodes. I'm sure you've found this out through your podcast. It's very difficult to get in touch with musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I got some good news, though. I'm going to be interviewing Marv Ross from Quarter Flash tomorrow.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. And I may have another one next week that I'm negotiating with. But I got you, nevertheless, to talk about The Cars, because one of my favorite bands of all time and stuff. My mom's name is Donna, too, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so flattered that you asked me. I mean, our little podcast is, pretty specialized in terms of, it's not something that general music fans might want to listen to because it's all about the cars, So,
right.
That was really nice of you to get in touch and ask me to chat with you about the band.
Oh, my pleasure. So, how did you first discover The Cars?
Well, I, grew up in the 80s, and so I, of course, knew The Cars from MTV, and Heartbeat City was a huge album in my teen years, and so I knew about them, but I wasn't really into them very much. And but a few years ago, my husband and I were driving back on a long car trip, and I think Best Friend's Girl came on the radio, and we got talking about how, they were, of course, we could remember Rick Ocasek,
right.
But we were saying, weren't there two singers? I thought there were two singers for the band, and we couldn't really remember. So when we got home, we Googled The Cars, and of course, Just What I Needed came up, and it was the 1978 performance on the Midnight Special.
Right.
And so we watched that video, and if you're familiar with it, I mean, Ben Orr is just amazing in that video. And so I was just struck. I mean, it was all over after that. I just went down the rabbit hole. I just, of course, Ben is super attractive, and there's just this charisma about him, and that was sort of the first, like, wow, I'm hooked. But then, as I started, of course, Googling everything and YouTubing everything and going deeper with the band, I just really love their music. And I didn't remember, again, my teen years, it was sort of the Heartbeat City era, so I didn't really remember the debut album. I didn't really remember Candy-O other than a couple of songs, and so rediscovering or, newly discovering, really, those albums for me was amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah. My dad had the first album on vinyl, and he used to play it a lot when I was 4 years old. This was like 1987. And then I saw the world premiere of the You Are the Girl video on MTV, and then I was hooked. I mean, I became obsessed with the Cars after that, and started seeing all their Heartbeat City videos a lot after that. When I was 11 years old, we used to rent movies from Warehouse Music, and they had a VHS tape of the Heartbeat City video album. And I gotta buy a copy of it off of eBay. It's been so long, but I rented that like once a month on a Friday for like 2 years until they didn't have the tape anymore. I just loved it. It was great. They got the uncensored. They had the uncensored version of "Hello Again."
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
Yeah. Oh my God. So the first album came out on my birthday 5 years before I was born, June 6, 1978.
Nice.
And the album was so revolutionary in what later became 80s new wave. I think what made them so great from the first album on is that they were this combination of like early 70s Todd Rundgren and the Raspberries with Steve Miller-like synthesizers. And Rick Ocasek had this like avant-garde Lou Reed-like magnetism that made them so great,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were different than anything that was on the airwaves at that time. I mean, you had disco, you had Saturday Night Fever stuff going on, and, I mean, there were, other rock bands, but the Cars really sort of bridged the gap between rock and pop. They were just such a new sound that it was difficult for, critics and reviewers to put a label on them. They were just very different. And I think one of the things that that's amazing about the band and that really contributes to their signature sound is the combination of Elliot Easton on guitar and Greg Hawkes on synthesizer. I mean, the way those two play off of each other in every song is it's just perfect. It's an amazing combination where you don't have one overpowering or competing with the other, but just a perfect synchronicity on every song. It makes it so great to listen to.
It's a nice, easy flow of music. What songs on the first album do you like the most?
Oh my gosh, my Desert Island song is on the debut album. It's Bye Bye Love.
That's a good one.
Is far and away my favorite song on the Cars, and certainly on the debut album. And of course, Just What I Needed is amazing, and never gets old. I never get tired of that song. I'm in Touch with Your World. It's so funny because every song, every song on that album is so great. All Mixed Up is incredible. Moving in Stereo, that whole little, Benjamin Orr trifecta there at the end with Bye Bye Love, Moving in Stereo, and All Mixed Up it's an amazing trio to listen to. The whole album is awesome.
Yeah.
What about you?
The hits, of course, but also Moving in Stereo, I just love. It's just, I don't think the song would be as notorious as it is if it hadn't been the titty anthem for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But
I know.
But it's just an amazing song, And the first time I heard it, I didn't first hear it in Fast Times. I actually heard it. It was playing during the credits of that video album, and that, and I was like, wow, what's this song? This is pretty cool. And then I went back and listened to the first album, and then I heard it again and stuff, because I didn't remember my dad playing that song when he used to play the vinyl record. So I kind of discovered it late.
Yeah. It's definitely, gosh, and to listen to it in headphones is just, it takes the experience to another level to get all of those little nuances, and Greg's keyboard work in that song is off the charts.
Yeah, there's a critic on allmusic.com who described the song as a new wave update of Brian Eno era Roxy music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great song. It's funny you said that about Fast Times, because I just watched that for the first time. I had never seen that movie growing up, and
wow.
As when I discovered the Cars, rediscovered or really got into them, then of course you see all these references every time anybody says movie in stereo. It's Phoebe Cates, and I had never watched that movie, and it kind of got to the point of just one of those weird, I'm not going to watch this just because everybody talks about it. And then I finally did watch it, and I didn't like the movie at all, really. And
it's funny, the first time I saw that movie, I didn't like it because I was in 7th grade and I didn't get it. But then sophomore year, I saw it again and just fell in love with it, But I don't think HBO or most of the cable channels played that movie back in the day because it was so controversial. My brother had all the teen sex comedy movies that he taped off of HBO when we were kids, but that one he didn't. And I don't think basic cable played it back then, but now they do.
Yeah, now it's a classic, considered a classic. But yeah. I don't know if maybe just because I'm older now and I'm not I'm a mom, and it's a different stage in my life where maybe I wouldn't appreciate a teen movie like that. I don't know. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't thrilled with it. But that's all right.
As much as I like the first album, I like Candy-O better.
Do ya?
Yeah, I think.
Is that your favorite? Is that your favorite of all the albums?
It's a tie between that and Heartbeat City.
I see. Okay.
I think the songs are more tighter and faster on Candy-O, and that there's some punk influence on the songs too. Because it was that time. They said they were under a lot of pressure delivering this one, and tired while they were recording. But it's a better second album than, say, Kiss is Hotter Than Hell or Boston's Don't Look Back.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because several of the songs on Candy-O they already had even before the debut album. I mean, there are some on there that were like Since You're Gone and You're All I've Got Tonight, songs they had already had. And but then Rick, I guess, was just writing constantly, and so they had some new stuff to choose from too. And I love that album, but that was the first. If I listen to the songs chronologically from the beginning of the Cars, Candy-O had the first songs that I ever would consider skipping. I'm not really a fan of Lust for Kicks. I'm not really a fan of Double Life. I like Double Life better, but those are ones that, on first listen, it was like, well, those aren't up there with the debut album songs or whatever. They're just different. But I do now. Of course, I love the whole album.
Yeah, Candy-O, the actual song, there's some punk influence there that I really like.
Yeah.
My favorites on that one are Let's Go, It's All I Can Do, Night Spots, Candy-O, Dangerous Type, and Got a Lot on My Head.
Yeah. Gosh, so many great songs on there.
Yeah. And I also like how much, with the first 4 albums, Roy Thomas Baker produced them, because he was producing Queen and Journey at the time, and he produced Alice Cooper's Flush the Fashion in 1980, which is a new wave album, and it sounds like a little bit of the Cars with a little bit of Gary Newman thrown in there.
Yeah. I realized that I think I misspoke. I think I said You're All I've Got Tonight, but that's on the first album. I think it was, because when you listed your favorites, I was like, oh yeah, Night Spots is one that they had before.
Yeah.
Yeah, not You're All I've Got Tonight.
Did you ever hear the alternate? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, Roy Thomas Baker, I definitely consider him the sixth member of the Cars, in terms of just being so crucial to their sound. Although I know he was only on the first 4 albums, he just obviously was instrumental in really helping to fine-tune what was already an amazing sound from the band. I mean, they were just a great band prior to having Roy on board, but then he just added his touch, that really took it over the top. And so I love Roy Thomas Baker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Panorama is a very dark album. What do you think about the album?
Panorama is actually my favorite album by the Cars.
Really?
Okay, so here, I've kind of said this before, so I hope it doesn't come across as repetitive, but I always consider like a capital letter Y. So you start at the bottom of a capital letter Y, that's the debut album, that's where the Cars kind of got their start, and you head straight up, the bottom of the Y, you head straight up, and there's Candio. And at that point, they kind of took a left turn to make that left arm of the Y is the Panorama album. I mean, it's definitely a different sound. Because I always felt like they could have gone in so many different directions. If you think of the background of the guys that are in the band and their influences and just what a combination they were, they could have gone super punk. They could have gone super pop. They could have gone hard rock. And I feel like they were experimenting, and they sort of went, people, like you said, that darker route. But I love the sound. I feel like they have just a real attitude. They have a real swagger in that album.
Yeah.
A real, not like a middle, not like the flipping the bird, but there's just an edgier sound to all of the songs, and I just love it. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very experimental album. I know that Rick Ocasek was producing the band Suicide at the time, and they were an experimental synth punk band, and from New York, and he really incorporates their sound on this album, especially in the title song. It's that classic music video that was so bad that they did for the song, where Rick's a secret agent and he jumps out of the helicopter and he floats safely down.
I love it. That terrible green screen work. It was so cutting edge at the time. Mm-hmm. Did you know that was produced by Jerry Cassell? I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Gerald Cassell from Devo.
Yeah, from Devo. Yeah, he produced the Panorama video and the Touch and Go video, I believe.
And he directed, yes.
He directed, yeah.
I've never been a fan of Touch and Go. I think it's a very slow, pedestrian song for them, and it sounds like a bad version of Tom Petty's "You Got Lucky."
Well, you know what? That's there's some speculation on if the Cars influenced that song, as well as a song by the Police. I don't remember what it's called. There's a song by the Police that has sort of that offbeat, like Touch and Go.
Mm-hmm.
That one took a while for me to get, because it has a little bit of a country vibe to me, that sort of
dub and reggae, yeah.
Yeah. On that, I really love, I think my favorite, it's hard, but I really love Down Boys. I think that's a great song. Again, that attitude in that song. Give Me Some Slack.
I love that song.
Those drums start up at the beginning, and I just want to run for miles. It's such a great song.
Yeah, I love that song, Give Me Some Slack. And I also like the last song, Up and Down.
Yes. Yeah, it was a great song to end that album. Mm-hmm. There's just some really great upbeat, and not upbeat, faster tempo, I guess I would say, because I'm not upbeat in terms of being like all cheery and pop-like. But just sort of that faster Running to You is a great song. And then, of course, You Wear Those Eyes is sort of mystic and
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not a ballad by any means, but a slower song that I really like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting album, but I don't think Shake It Up is a particularly strong album.
No, see, okay, so that why I was talking about, they go off to the left with Panorama, and they get these reviews that it's dark, and what happened to the Cars, and they sort of this bad vibe from the press, although it still went platinum, and so then then they sort of come back down the left arm of the Y, and then they go all the way in the other direction with Shake It Up. They go off to the right now with this more poppy, radio friendly, single generating album.
Yeah. Yeah, my thoughts on Shake It Up is that I think by the time they did that album, they kind of got a little directionless on it, and I think that's what ultimately led to Roy Thomas Baker's disassociation with the band. Like, I don't think he knew where to take them next, with a glossy pop sound. But the hits are definitely highlights, My favorite song on the album is "I'm Not the One," and
oh yeah,
I love Greg Hawk's keyboard, especially at the beginning. It's like classical piano on a synthesizer and a sequencer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a
beautiful song.
And I think of Billy Madison every time I hear that song.
Well, it's interesting you said that about Roy Thomas Baker. I hadn't thought about that before in terms of the band moving toward more of a pop style as being an influence on his decision. But I did hear an interview with him where he was saying that after the Cars album, I think he was pretty burned out in general. He actually ended up getting a house in the desert and sort of going recluse, disappearing off the grid for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He was sort of talking about that, so I'm not sure what all played into that, but I hadn't thought about him, about the sound of the Cars kind of getting out of his realm. I haven't really thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely a poppier album. I love, Ben's got some great songs. So Rick and Ben trade vocals. I think Ben, number-wise, I think Ben maybe sang a third, maybe a little more than a third of the Cars songs.
Mm-hmm.
But he has some great songs on this album. This Could Be Love is awesome. Think It Over is awesome.
Yep.
Cruiser is incredible.
I love it.
But it's interesting. Cruiser, this album would be one where you get to tracks and I love the live versions better than the studio versions. And Cruiser is definitely one of those. Cruiser live is so great. And I like it on the album, but I really love it live. It just has a different, and I think maybe it's because it sounds more, when they play it live, you can hear the guitars more. It sounds a little more rockin', where the studio version's, pretty synthesizer driven.
Yeah, there was a concert video of the Heartbeat City tour that I also used to rent from that same warehouse music place. And I was actually a little bit bored by the live renditions, but I actually thought they did a pretty good stage show with the lights and everything.
Oh, yeah.
On there. Yeah.
And they were often criticized for being boring on stage, but I love watching them live. And I think partly it's just my personality, and I don't care for a bunch of, running around and acrobatics and things like that.
Like Mick Jagger.
Oh, gosh.
Like Mick Jagger.
David Lee Roth makes me nuts. I can't stand to watch Van Halen live. They just, I just don't get into all those theatrics. So for them to just stand there and play their instruments, bring it on. I'm happy.
Yeah, David Lee Roth, Mick Jagger, they're always running around the stage and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know who directed the Shake It Up video?
Oh, Jeff. No, I guess I don't know.
Paul Justman from the Jay Giles Band.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, they had they had a camaraderie with other bands, to get them to direct their videos, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
People note though on Shake It Up that there's like two songs with Buddy Holly titles on them. Maybe Baby
Right.
and I think A Dream Away.
I remember. I knew Maybe Baby. I didn't know about the other one.
That goes back.
People compare Rick's vocals to Buddy Holly's time to time too. His little weird little sounds he makes when he sings.
A little bit, yeah. That goes back to Bye Bye Love on the first album, which is the Everly Brothers title.
Yes, but the song is clearly way different.
Yeah, of course, way different.
The Everly Brothers got nothing on my Ben. That's what I gotta say.
Now, Heartbeat City to me is their sellout masterpiece. It has a traditional car sound, but with Robert John Mutt Lange's Echosonic reverb, that he had done with AC/DC and Def Leppard. It's so fresh and so 80s, because
so 80s.
whereas the previous albums had such a 70s raw edge to them, even though Shake It Up had pop gloss on it, they just outdid themselves on this one, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So from the debut album to Shake It Up, the Cars, they're releasing an album every year, 79, 80, 81. And then they take this break. I think Heartbeat City came out in 84.
Right.
And so it's sort of like they kind of, you could look at it that they sort of went underground for a while, although they were all, busy. But then they sort of reinvented themselves and hit the middle of the 80s with this definitive new wave sound that they had. I mean, they were amazing. They were that's just a term I can think of as definitive. They were the new wave sound. Great synthesizers, just a smooth production. Just everything about it was huge. Sound was big. The album was big. Their shoulder pads were big. I mean, it's everything about that time,
Yeah.
It's so 80s, like you said.
And the videos were just classics. I mean, you might think it was directed by the legendary Jeff Stein, and he had help from Charlex, which was a New York-based animation company, which is still around. And that same year, they did Saturday Night Live's opening titles, which are very similar to that video. And they actually got to do Saturday Night Live twice.
Yeah.
They did it in '84. That was the last season with that cast, and they had like 5 hosts that night: Billy Crystal, Edwin Newman, Betty Thomas, a couple other people. And the Cars did Magic, Drive, and Heartbeat City that night.
Did they do Heartbeat City?
I think they did. I think they did. Or maybe they did Why Can't I Have You? I can't remember. It's been a while. But they used the same they used the same lighting that they did in the Heartbeat City video. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So that's what you did too. I actually have on my Facebook page, I have all of the Saturday Night Live clips from both times, including when Elliot was on with Jay Giles, I think. No, Peter Wolf. He was on with Peter Wolf. And then Rick was on it when he was promoting his solo album.
Right.
So I have all those. He was in a couple of skits, and so I have all of those on my Facebook page. But I didn't remember Heartbeat City. I have to go look.
Yeah, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But
yeah, I was excited. Their performances on there are great.
Now, if I remember correctly, in '87, when they were on, when Dabney Coleman hosted, they did Strap Me In and Coming Up You.
I think it was Strap Me In and Double Trouble.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But
I have to. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I know it was Double Trouble. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, because I can picture.
Yeah.
They were wearing and stuff.
Every hit on Heartbeat City is just great, and I love all the hits on there. Magic, that video with Rick, walking on water is just hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, there are a lot of great songs on there. I totally agree. And again, Ben's got some great vocals. I mean, obviously, he's my favorite. Drive is iconic and timeless, and will live on forever. I love the song "Looking for Love." I think that was really one of my favorites. "Why Can't I Have You" is so good. "I Refuse" is a really good song too. The demo, when they released the expanded versions of these albums, they put the demo for "I Refuse" on one of them, and it's so good. It has a little bit different sound, a little more twangy, kind of country sound, but it's really, really good. It's a great version too. Then back to Ben, he did "Stranger Eyes," he did "It's Not the Night."
Yep.
And "Stranger Eyes," did you know that in the original trailers for the movie Top Gun, "Stranger Eyes" is the song that they had backing those trailers?
Yeah.
But they, of course, ended up going with Kenny Loggins.
Yeah, there's a B-side that was left off. It should have been on there, but it's on the anthology album. It's called "Breakaway."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It was the B-side of "Why Can't I Have You." It's a good one. I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And then, like you said, those videos, they were so, again, just cutting edge. They were at the forefront of technology, like you said, with the Charlick stuff, and then they won the first MTV Video of the Year. Mm-hmm. You might think, and
yes, that's true.
Yeah, they were really ahead of their time in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Was "Tonight She Comes" originally supposed to be on the Heartbeat City, but did they just put it on the greatest hits?
No, "Tonight She Comes" was a song that Rick had for one of his solo albums that he ended up not using. Oh. And so he was actually recording his solo album at the same time, and he said in an interview, I guess the label was wanting them to put something out, and so or to do this greatest hits thing, but they wanted something new for it. So Rick had "Tonight She Comes" that they weren't using, and so they decided to do that.
Okay, that explains why it's a little too dirty for the Cars.
It's a great song. It's amazing, and the solo, Elliot's guitar solo is awesome.
It is. I like it a lot. Then comes "Door to Door," which Rick Ocasek and Ben Orr produced. Do you think that one of the reasons why they broke up and one of the reasons why they disagreed so much on this album, do you think that there was a rivalry between them?
That is just the question for the ages in terms of this band. And I do want to just clarify, Ben was not involved in the production of the album. It was just Rick, and I think that Greg Hawkes actually has a production credit maybe on one or two of the songs. It was just Rick in the producer's chair. And, in terms of them splitting up, I mean, I think that there's there are a couple of reasons I think that get cited. And one is that Ben asked Rick, because right before "Door to Door," the year before, Ben had put out his first solo album, which was called "The Lace," and he wrote the songs with his fiancée, Diane Page. And so, the story goes that he asked Rick if if Ben and Diane could write some songs for the Cars. And Rick was kind of like, hell no, that is never going to happen. Mm-hmm. So you've got that element. I think that there was some disagreement over finances, or some unhappiness over finances in the band. And I don't know about in terms of rivalry between the two. I mean, it's been said that that especially after Ben's solo album, that perhaps Ben wanted to be doing more than he was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think that, the story about Ben wanting to do some writing, or wanting he and Diane to do some writing, has definitely been discussed in interviews before, and so I think that contributed. And Rick has always said he never liked to tour. He preferred to be in the studio. I mean, I think, there was some burnout. There was just some members wanting to go different directions. I think there's just a lot of factors,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's a couple good songs on the album. You Are the Girl, Strap Me In, Door to Door, Coming Up You. Those songs are good, but they were running out of gas by that point. And musical tastes were changing. It was done by then.
Everything You Say is probably my favorite on the album. Well, Coming Up You is really good too. But Everything You Say is another one of those that's so great live. To see them perform it live really rocks. Go Away is a really good one too, actually. There's some. I think that Door to Door might be my least favorite album.
It's one of my
Shake
favorites
It Up.
too. Yeah.
Shake It Up's not my big favorite either, but so it's kind of down there. But but still, even the worst of their albums still has so many great songs on it. Really, and songs that I listen to still all the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you like any of their solo stuff?
I'm okay with Rick's. I mean, I haven't listened to him a lot, particularly because I'm not a big fan of his standalone style. But I love Ben's album. It took me a while to warm up to it because it's definitely more, adult contemporary sound or whatever.
Right.
But I love Elliot Easton's solo album. It's called Change No Change, and it came out in 1985. And he wrote it with Jules Shear, and the lyrics are so intelligent and snarky, and he's, of course, his great guitar work, and I really dig Elliot's album quite a bit. So Ben and Elliot's for sure. And Greg put out a solo album called Niagara Falls, which is so Greg, and that's really good too. That's a fun album to listen to. But I think Ben's and Elliot's are my favorite.
Yeah, I like Rick's Emotion in Motion. It sounds like a car. It sounds like a car song. And then
that's a good one.
He did Rock Away, which Nile Rodgers produced.
Mm-hmm.
Those were good. Yeah.
That whole album has, you can tell Nile Rodgers produced it. It just has that funky undertone to it that's really fun.
I haven't heard Elliot's album, but I'll check it out. But I've heard Ben's and I've heard Ben's and Greg's though. Yeah. So when they did the new Cars in 2006, I was like, what the fuck?
I think a lot of people were like that.
you got Todd Rundgren in the band, who I love, and I've seen him live, but he's not a Cars guy. I mean, even though they sound like they were influenced by his brand of power pop, it was like a marketing flubber to have him in the band.
Yes. Yeah. I like Todd Rundgren on his own. But, yeah, I didn't think that he was a good choice for the Cars. And he didn't help matters when he, says things in interviews like, well, I need the money. Like, okay, that doesn't, endear you to anybody who's wondering why you're singing a lead on the Cars songs,
Which brings me to Move Like This, because I was excited to hear that they had a new album coming out, and I was looking forward to the reunion tour, but it only lasted a month, and they did not come to the Bay Area, and I was so upset about that, and I was disappointed by the album.
Oh, were you? You don't care for it?
I don't care for it as much. No, not really.
I really dig the album. Of course, Ben is sorely missed, having passed away in 2000. So there's definitely a gap there that I hear. But I thought the album was great. There are a lot of songs on it that I really like, and I was happy happy to find that they had, gotten gotten back together, that they got their act together, and they said, that as soon as they started playing together again, it was like no time had passed. They just fell into their groove, and I think you can really hear that on the album, that they're still interlocked with each other.
Mm-hmm. What exactly is a blue tip?
I don't know. Is it like the end of a pool cue?
That was a weird title of a song, I thought, especially for a first single.
Yeah, it just always makes me think of playing pool, because he says, "Blue, tip me a cue," and I don't know. I just think of a pool cue. I don't know. It's a great song.
It was okay.
It's a lot of fun.
It was okay. They tried, but I was just disappointed.
Oh man!
I mean, I had always known that Rick, didn't like touring, but I thought, maybe he was going to just, bite the bullet and do a long, long tour, but no.
No. Well, and when they were touring for Door to Door, when they first started, it was supposed to be the worldwide tour. It was supposed to be this, like the most extensive tour they had ever done. Mm-hmm. Of course, they broke up before, in the first couple months of the tour, they broke up, and they weren't selling seats well and things like that, I guess. And then all the interpersonal struggle. But, I had even like listening to those interviews, and of course I'm coming to everything later, having just really gotten into the Cars in the last few years and listening to all this stuff.
Yeah.
Hindsight in it. Hearing, them talking about this big, extensive worldwide tour, and I'm thinking, there's no way Rick's going to be able to handle that. There's no way.
So how did Night Thoughts come about for you?
Ooh, the podcast. Okay, so I got into so it was like the end of 2015 when I went down the rabbit hole with the Cars, and I have a real researcher type personality, so I started just reading everything and really going deep. And so in that spring, I just had to have an outlet. I just thought I need to start writing this stuff down. I can't just keep talking my husband's ear off about all of these details. And so I started a blog, which is called SweetPurpleJune.wordpress.com. And Sweet Purple June is a lyric line from a Cars song that actually never made it to vinyl, but it was one of their early songs. So that's why I chose that name, and so I started this blog, and I had become friends with David Curry on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And when I started the blog, he was really into doing graphics for the Cars with, pictures and stuff. So I asked him to do a graphic for my blog, and we just got to talking and just really hit it off, just became really great friends and loved talking about everything that had to do with the Cars. And so after about a year, in the summer of 2015, he said, we should do a podcast and just talk about, just record all these things we talked about, because we talked about everything about the Cars. So, we just thought, we'll just do this for fun, and who knows what'll ever come of it, but it sounds fun to us, so we'll do it. So we started Night Thoughts, the Cars podcast, in the summer of 2016. No, it would have been 2017. Sorry, because I started my blog in 2016, and then it was the following summer. Mm-hmm. So we just started yakking about the Cars together and posting it in groups, and then we kind of have a little cult following, and we just love it. Like I said, we just talk about anything and everything that we want to about the Cars.
Yeah.
We're actually fortunate to have Greg Hawkes. We got to interview Greg Hawkes on the podcast.
I like that one
episode.
Yeah. That was a good interview.
That was incredible to get to talk with him. And then we've had Judith Orr, who was married to Ben in the 90s. She was a guest on the podcast, a very, very popular guest, too. She
sounded like a lot of fun. I liked that one, too. I reached out to her just recently. I hope I get a response from her.
Oh, nice. Yeah, she's the sweetest. And we're hoping to do a second one with her. We're hoping to do a second one with Greg, too. Maybe this fall. We'll see what we have lined up. But so it's just been really fun. We've met so many great people, and it's just kind of grown, and it's just been a blast to do. And we'll just do it however long we feel like it. However long we can think of what we want to talk about, and
Yeah.
They won't last forever. With a band that's not putting out anything new, you're going to run out of things to talk about, but we're having a blast.
I reached out to Greg, too. He read it, but no response yet, so fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, nice.
I'm hoping my interview with Marv tomorrow will give me credibility with musicians, in the future, so I'm excited about that. The closest to a legendary musician I've interviewed is Tina Turner's saxophone player, Tim Capello.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's the closest to one and stuff, so hopefully it will lead to more. But is there anybody from the Cars universe that you've had trouble getting on?
We haven't tried a whole lot. But I have actually messaged Roy Thomas Baker a couple of times. I would love to have him on, and because he's on Twitter, he follows us on Twitter, and he retweets our stuff a lot. Mm-hmm. But I can't ever get him to respond. He hasn't blocked me yet, so that's good. But he doesn't respond to requests to be on the show. That's someone that we've tried to get on, and I would love to get on, and haven't had any luck. We haven't approached Elliot Easton. Although, I run a fan group with another girlfriend on Facebook that's an Elliot Easton fan group, and he interacts on that a little bit and stuff, but we haven't approached him about it. And we actually, David Curry and I met David Robinson, the drummer, in Boston in June, and he said, at that time he said, he'd like to be on the podcast, and so we're just hoping to set something up with him. So, like I said, we haven't gone big time out of our way, and certainly I have no, I would love to have Rick Ocasek on, but realistically, I just don't know if that's going to ever happen, but fingers crossed.
I like that. He hasn't blocked me yet.
Yeah, right. Try to be careful. Gosh, it would be so great to talk to Roy Thomas Baker. I would love that so much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a lot of history there with him.
Like you said.
Yeah, there's a lot of history with that guy.
Yeah.
Well, Donna, I'm glad that the podcast is going well, and I thank you so much for coming on today. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I did want to just give one more little plug, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Of course, I hope people will, Cars fans, I hope they'll listen to the podcast, which is at the Cars Podcast on Twitter. It's called Night Thoughts, the Cars Podcast, and we're on YouTube and iTunes and SoundCloud. And then I have my blog, like I already said. And then also, I've had the extreme honor of being the public relations coordinator for a biography about Benjamin Orr that was just published in November of 2018. It's called Let's Go, Benjamin Orr and the Cars, and it's written by Joe Milliken, and it's an amazing book, the first book, the only book out there about Ben, and really well written, really great pictures, and really a lot of good information. So that can be found on Amazon, and there's a Facebook page for that too called Let's Go, Benjamin Orr and the Cars. So I hope people will check that out too.
Nice. And I just pressed the follow button on Facebook for you.
Yay, thank you. That's nice.
My pleasure. Donna, thank you so much, and have yourself a great day.
Thanks, Tommy. You too. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Donna SweetPurpleJune. Ain't she a sweetheart? I like her a lot. Sweet girl. Great stories. Great anecdotes about the cars. And she's got great taste in music, obviously. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. Let the good times roll.